get right, and we're going to discuss those questions. Okay, what about the questions that, okay, we got some questions right, but I still want to check my answer, right? Or for example, we're not going to discuss the questions that only one person got wrong. You don't have to worry about that either, because I'm going to provide you with the answer key with answer explanations. So in case we skip a question, you can just go back to the answer key and check it. But again, we're not skipping questions just, we're not skipping questions randomly. No, it's systematic. It's based on your answers and based on which areas we are weak at and which areas we are strong at. Okay, so just give me 1 minute. I'm going to share with you the tests and everything so that we can get started, all right? Okay, I believe that you can see this, my screen. Is that correct? Can you confirm, please? Okay, perfect. All right, so let's see what kind of questions we are going to discuss in this test. The first question actually is question number 1. Okay, but again, of course, I'm not going to just tell you the answer and do everything myself. I need your support. So please, everybody, keep your cameras open as we agreed. And also, whenever I ask something, if you have the answer, you don't have to ask for permission or raise your hand. No, just go there. If there are 2 people trying to answer at the same time, then of course I'm going to choose one person for one question. I'm going to choose the other person for the next question and so on. Okay, let's start with question number 1. I'm just going to read the part for you so that we get the context. As usual, it's all about the context. So here, what are we saying? If we start at least from the beginning of the sentence, Sequeiros was asked to celebrate tropical America in his work. He accordingly titled America tropical. Now, if we look at the first part, before the underlined one, we have Sequeiros, that's the subject of the sentence, was asked, that's the verb, to celebrate tropical America in his work, right? So here we have a complete sentence. If you look at the second part, which is the underlined part, he accordingly tilted it. Again, what do we have? He as the subject, tilted as the verb. It's a complete sentence. So who can tell me first, what's the problem here? Is there a problem or not? And if there is a problem, what is it?
Splice.
Good, thank you so much. So here we have 2 complete sentences. However, how are they joined together? Only with a comma. And we know that's called comma splice. A comma is not enough. So it doesn't work. Okay, now, Muhammad, we already eliminated one answer, which is A. Can you tell me about the other 2 options that we should also eliminate so that we can get the right answer?
C and D, because they don't support, give us any subordination or coordination.
Good, thank you so much. So they are just, for example, in C, if you notice, they just changed the word order. Instead of saying he accordingly tilted it, they said accordingly he tilted it, but still the same structure. In the second one, which is D, they just made it what? Passive. But why does B work? Because as Muhammad said, now, because we have which is a relative pronoun, it makes the second part of the sentence a dependent clause. So now we can connect them together with the relative pronoun which. So the answer is B. Okay, so what kind of notes should we write here? Of course, as I always advise my students, here next to the question number, you should write the type of the question. For example, here, it's comma place. That's it. Okay, if I need any other notes, I write it down here or there, next to the question, next to each option. That's up to you. But for me, the main thing that I require you guys to take notes of is the type of the question. Now we already agreed that it's a comma splice question. We write our notes, we choose the right answer, and then we move on. All right. So this is for question number 1. Now let's move to question number 4. In question number 4, as you can see here, they're telling us which choice best connects the sentence with the previous paragraph. So this is transition, right? Because transition is to connect the ideas together. Here we have the last sentence in the previous paragraph, and we need to connect it with what's happening here, okay? So we need to be a little bit patient. Let's go to that sentence. So here we are saying, also, of course, it could be also or any other answer. That's not a big deal here, but to avoid scrutiny. Scrutiny, it means examination. He didn't want people to examine his painting. What did he do? Sequeiros painted the final section of the mural, which is the centerpiece, at night. Okay, and of course now, if we go back a little bit, we understand why, for example, for question number 2, the answer should be however, because in the previous sentence, they told us that he painted the first 2 sections when? During the day. And then we say, however. Why, however? Because the first 2 sections were painted during the day, but the last section, which is the centerpiece, was painted at night. And this is the contrast, during the day, at night. So we use however. All right, now the next. So now, what is the idea? The idea, he didn't want people to examine his work, so he kept the last part of the painting, which is the centerpiece, until night, and he painted it at night, okay? Now, let's read the part here. The reason for Sequeiros is secrecy. Now, was there secrecy? Yes. We said he wanted to avoid scrutiny. Became clear when the mural was confided. Now, here is the thing. The transition should mention something before, already mentioned, and something after. We agreed on that. What does the transition do? It just connects. How does it connect what's after and what's before? It mentions something mentioned before, but it also mentions something that's going to be mentioned later. So do we have something mentioned before? Yes, we have the secrecy. All right. But what do I expect to find after? If they told us about the reason, then now this sentence contains the 2 parts, the secrecy from the sentence before. And if they give us the reason, then from the sentence after, then we say this is the best transition. So let's read. That's why I tell you it's all about context. You need to be patient, but with a lot of practice, that's not going to take all of this time. I know that I'm taking a little bit more time than expected, just to make sure that everybody is getting the idea. And this is the first time we practice this together. Okay. Now, the centerpiece of that work was dominated by images of native people. And these native people are being oppressed, and included an eagle symbolizing the United States. So what was he doing? Actually, look, he was sending a political message, right? That, you know, maybe we can say the white people, the Europeans, were oppressing native people. Was that the reason that he was trying to hide and he didn't want people to find it out during the day? Yes. Is that why he was secret about it? Yes. Is that the best transition? Yes. So the answer is no change. Okay. All right. So that's for question number 4. Is it clear? Do you have any questions so far?
Clear.
All right. Now let's move to question number 23. No, sorry. That was a huge skip. Question number 9. Okay. So now we're talking about question number 9. Okay, as usual, we start at least from the beginning of the sentence to get the context. So here they're telling us hundreds of large, colorful new murals depicting elements of Mexican-American life and history appeared during this period, some in designated cultural locations, but many more in abandoned lots, on unused buildings, or painted on infrastructure, such as highways and bridges. So first of all, in question number 9, the sentence itself, what does it contain? It contains a list. It contains a list, right? In abandoned lots, comma, on unused buildings, comma, or painted on infrastructure. Okay, what is the rule we follow for lists? Who can tell me? Other than punctuation, because here the question is obviously not about punctuation.
Parallelism.
Thank you. Yes, exactly. It's parallel structure. So let's look here. What do we have in abandoned lots? That's a prepositional phrase. On unused buildings, another prepositional phrase. So here we also need what? Another prepositional phrase, which means we don't need the verb with ed. We can just say in lots, on buildings, or on infrastructure, which means the best answer, of course, should be what? C. So this is about parallel structure. We made sure that all the three elements in the list are prepositional phrases. They have the same structure. Now, actually, we have an issue with question number 10 because most of you got it wrong, okay? Which means we need to focus on this question. Question number 10, it says, which choice most effectively sets up the information that follows? So this is a support question. And I'm going to focus on the information that follows. All right, let's see. Again, for just the context, we can start from the beginning of the paragraph. Fortunately, a new group of artists has discovered the murals, and efforts are underway to clean, restore, and repaint them. Once again, Sequoia's America Tropical is leading the way, and they underline this part, leading the way. Now, here's the thing, guys, it's all about context, please. Look, why cannot I choose B? Being cleaned and restored, because it's already mentioned here. So this will be what? Who can tell me? This will be redundant, right? And then at risk of destruction. If you read the first part, that actually they are restoring it, right? Clean, restore, and repaint. So to say that it's at risk of destruction, isn't that contradictory? Yes, it is. And even if you read a little bit more, look, after a lengthy and complex restoration process, this powerful work is now, it's now a tourist attraction. So I cannot say it's at risk of destruction because it's going to be contradictory. Okay, what about D? Cannot we say that it's awaiting its moment of appreciation? No. Like
Fancy.
this, yeah, because we are already saying that that this place is a tourist attraction, which means people appreciate it. Why would they make it a tourist attraction if there's no appreciation around this work, right? So it doesn't work as well. And the best thing is just to keep it A, leading the way. This is a positive phrase telling us about the result of the work of cleaning, restoring, and repainting. So now this painting can still lead the way, right? So focus on that, please. So we already said B is redundant, D is redundant, or actually no, C and D are contradictory because it's already appreciated. It's a tourist attraction now, and there's no risk of destruction. On the other, on the contrary, they are restoring it, they are cleaning it, and so on. All right, now, so we did 1, 4, 9, and 10. Now we can move to question number 23, which means, again, all the questions between 10 and 23, we are okay with them in general. Either all of us got them right, or just one person got a certain question wrong. What about 23? All right, so here, as you can see, there are 3 lines of instructions. So we need to pick up our keywords in order to know exactly what's the summary of these 3 lines, okay? The writer wants to convey an attitude of genuine interest. These are my keywords, okay? So I need to use a word that shows that the writer is really interested, and to avoid the appearance of mockery. Mockery is making fun of somebody. So the writer wants to seem interested and serious about the issue. He is not trying to make fun of the situation. What is the best word we can use here? Of course, we need the context. You cannot just look at the words and decide. Research on regional variations in English language use has not only yielded answers to such life-altering questions. So first of all, of course, I can notice that all the words that I have here are what? Adjectives. And I'm using this adjective to describe the word questions, okay? So they are doing research on regional variations in English language use and how it gave answers to something. This is the adjective that we're going to choose to questions. As how people in different parts of the United States, so that these are the questions, focus on that, okay? Because that's the key to your answer. So it's about how people in different parts of the United States refer to carbonated beverages. So these are the variations we're talking about. For example, some people call, these beverages soda. In other regions, in other areas, they would just call it pop. In other regions, they would call it Coke. Now, here's the thing. Can I say that these questions are life-changing? Whether people call these beverages soda, Coke, or pop?
No.
No, that would sound what? Mockery. It would sound that the author is making fun of the research.
Sarcastic.
Exactly, sarcastic. Thank you so much, Osama. So A doesn't work. What about galvanizing? No, because first of all, galvanizing is, a word that's rarely used, and it means shocking. Okay, if we want to know what's the meaning of galvanizing, it means shocking. And if I add shocking here, shocking questions, again, it doesn't really help me. What about weird? Of course, it makes sense to say that it's the first question that comes to the first word that comes to mind that it's wrong. Okay, why would you say weird questions? So the best answer is intriguing. What does intriguing means? Simply, it means interesting. That's it, as simple as that. And they already told us in the question that we need genuine interest. That's why what I always tell you, I know that I just keep repeating it, but because believe me, it's the key to answering any question you want, which is highlighting the keywords, knowing exactly what the question wants you to do, okay? So the answer here, as we said, is C, intriguing, which means interesting. So now we're done with question number 23. Let's now move to question number 25. All right. Now here's the thing. They're telling us which choice most effectively sets up the contrast in the sentence and is consistent with the information in the rest of the passage. Now, first of all, if this question takes a lot of time to answer, then skip it, because it's already telling you that we need information from the rest of the passage, okay? So you don't have to just spend a lot of time trying to figure out what the right answer is. However, let me tell you this. Here, this is what? This is the main idea, because we agreed the main idea of the passage is the last sentence in the introduction, right? So they're asking us about the main idea, the thesis statement. While traditional human intensive data collection, something, okay, in language studies, the explosion of social media has opened new avenues for investigation. So they are telling us that despite the fact that the human data collection, something happened to it, now we have the explosion of social media that has opened avenues for investigation. So what should we say? Has all but disappeared? Still has an important place, remain the only option, yields questionable results? How can I know that? Now, one way, you can just be patient and read the rest of the passage, and you will get the information. You will ask yourself, did it really disappear, as option A is saying, has all but disappeared? Or according to the passage, is it really the only option that we have? Or does it give us questionable, doubtful results? So that's one way. You can be patient, keep reading. Or, for example, we can read the quick sentence at the beginning of each paragraph. Okay, so
Can't we know from the thesis statement itself?
no, because they are asking you about the thesis statement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so let me tell you something. We cannot read the whole passage, of course, but if you read the passage, and I believe that you did because you did the all the passages and send me your answers, of course we agree that it hasn't disappeared. Okay, we agree that it's not the only option, because how is it the only option if we are already talking about social media, right? I mean, just logically speaking. And then they didn't tell us about questionable results at all. So as I said, you need to be patient for these questions, read the whole passage, but don't forget to come back to the question and answer it. So we can say that the answer is B. Okay, so while human intensive data collection still has an important place, okay, so it's still important, but now we have social media and it has opened for us new avenues for investigation. So for this reason, the answer is B. Okay.
Why can't D work?
Okay. Remember, we said that this is called evidence-based test. Now, I just need you to give me evidence of questionable results. I told you, like, to answer this question, I told you that we would be required to read the whole passage. Now, honestly, I cannot do that now. I cannot read the whole passage and go sentence by sentence. It's too long. But I told you, for example, remains the only option doesn't work because we are already in the same sentence talking about social media, which is another option. So C is definitely wrong. Has but all disappeared? It did not disappear according to what we have in the passage. Questionable results, here's the thing. If I have evidence in the passage that human intensive data collection gives us doubtful results, then I would choose it. But it's not there, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Sometimes it's just the issue of evidence. I think it's D. Okay, perfect. Can you find anywhere in the passage any piece of information that directly relates this option? Then choose it and be 100% sure of your answer. If you couldn't really find evidence, then of course it means that that's not the right answer. All right, now we go to question number 27, which is about the sentence placement. Okay, so let's see here. This is actually a sequence paragraph. Look, they told us perhaps the epitome of traditional methodology in the Dictionary of American Regional English, colloquially as DARE. Okay, its fifth and final alphabetical volume, ending with Zydeco, released in 2012. The dictionary represents decades of arduous work. Now let's agree that I would not change anything about 1 and 2. Why? Because 1, it introduced the idea of the dictionary. 2, it refers to the dictionary with the pronoun its. So putting anything between them would interrupt the flow of ideas. And putting something before sentence number 1, because now once we read, you will see actually that the whole paragraph is about the dictionary. And this is the first time they mentioned the full name of the dictionary. So it doesn't make sense to put something before sentence number 1, right? Now, they ended the second sentence talking about decades, right, of arduous work, which means hard work. Let's see what the next sentence is about. Over a 6-year period from 1965 to 1970, university graduate students conducted interviews in more than 1,000 communities across the nation. Okay, now, so here they are telling us about this kind of hard work. What is it? It's conducting interviews in more than 1,000 communities across the nation. So I would keep it as it is. What about sentence number 4? Look, it starts with their goal. That's why, if you remember, when we talked about sentence placement, I told you, look at pronouns: his, her, our, their, its. And that's what made us sure that 2 should not be changed, because it starts with its, referring to the dictionary. So I cannot add something in between. It will interrupt. The same thing with the 3 and 4. They were talking about whom? They were talking about those university graduate students. And sentence number 4 started with their goal. So again, I would not interrupt it. So far, I'm not going to change anything about sentences from 1 to 4. Okay? So their goal was to determine what names people use for such everyday objects and concepts, such as a submarine sandwich. So it's called a hero in New York City. But it's called a dagwood in many parts of Minnesota, Iowa, and Colorado. What about heavy rainstorm? It's called gully washer, pour down, or stump over. As you can see, all of these are just examples of how people in different areas in the United States call normal things. Okay, here is the thing now. If we look at sentence number 4, okay, because we need to add this sentence. So we said we're not going to add this sentence after 2 or 3. The sentence says data gathering. Actually, we should have read the sentence before. I'm sorry, I skipped that part. But now we are reading it, okay? But usually, if the sentence is to be added, read it before so that you can just keep in mind what the sentence is about. Data gathering proved to be the quick part of the project. So remember, how many interviews did they do? Or how many years did they do that? Over 6 years, from 1965 to 1970. Now, sentence number 5 is saying the work that dictionary founder Frederick G. Cassidy had expected to be finished by 1976 was not in fact completed in his lifetime. Okay, so here's the thing. If I take this sentence and put it after sentence number 4, they told us that it took them 6 years to do the interviews from 1965 to 1970, right? And then here we're saying that data gathering. Look, we summarize the whole sentence, issue, which is the first 4 sentences, that this is data gathering. How did they gather? How did they collect the information? As we said, holding interviews. So that proved to be the quick part. Now here's the thing, because the only option is to put it after number 5. Do we agree? So we agreed that it should not be after 2, it should not be after 3. So it means either after 4 or after 5. Now, why can I choose it after 5? Because if I put it after sentence number 5 here, what would happen? The next sentence, which is number 6, it starts with the weight. The weight did not dampen their enthusiasm among scholars. So the information will be what? Contradictory. Why? Because in this sentence, I'm saying quick part. And then here I'm saying the weight did not dampen enthusiasm, which means it did not weaken the enthusiasm among scholars. So to say in this sentence that data gathering was the quick part, and then to say the weight did not dampen enthusiasm, there's contradiction. So where should I put it? I should put this sentence after sentence number 4 here. And I'm using this sentence to summarize the first part of the paragraph because it was all about data gathering. Okay, if we choose it after sentence number 5, how would sentence 5 and 6 work together? Look, the work that dictionary founder Frederick G. Cassidy had expected to be finished by 1976 was not completed in his lifetime. Okay? So I'm referring to this fact that the work of the dictionary did not finish by 1976. This is the weight I'm talking about. Right? Because they expected to be finished by 1976. but actually this work was not completed in his lifetime, and this is the weight I'm referring to. So the two sentences are already connected, and that's why they said the weight. And we always say when we use the, then we're talking about something specific, and that's what we referred to in the previous sentence. So to summarize the whole answer here, it is simply C. Okay? So as we agreed on sentence placement questions, you need to read, you need to highlight the keywords in the sentences, you need to understand the relationship of ideas, and you need to look at pronouns, reference words. Like here, they help me a lot. I know that it should not be, for example, after number 3, because sentence number 4 started with their goal. So putting data gathering and then referring to it with a plural pronoun there would be problematic, and so on. So this is for question number 27. Now let's move to question number 31. Okay, that's graph question. It's a graph and passage at the same time. It's a nice question. It's tricky, but we can do it, right? The information, mainly here, it's about understanding the question. So, because if you understand the question, everybody would find the answer. Okay, so I'm sure that you did not get, for example, the wrong answer because of the passage or the figure. No, it's all about understanding what the question exactly wants you to do. So the writer wants the information in the passage to correspond, which means to match, okay, with the information in the map. So that's what I'm trying to do. I have the information in the passage, I have the information in the map, I want them to match. Given that goal, so which means keeping that in mind, that we want them to match, assuming that the rest of the previous sentence would remain unchanged. So we're not going to change anything in the sentence, which means, because they said 31, and what did they say here? Previous sentence. That means that this sentence here, from here until there, we're not going to change anything in the order of the sentence. In which sequence should the 3 terms for soft drinks be discussed? All right, I'm going to zoom out a little bit so that we can see the whole thing together, okay? Now, let's read the sentence, of course. We start with the sentence. As the map shows, soda is commonly heard in the middle and western portions. Of course, what's going to help you is what? Here, the places. So I had the middle and western. If you go to the middle and western, it shows us this dark color. The dark color is referred to here as pop, right? So it's not soda. I cannot say soda is heard in the middle and western portions of the United States, because according to the figure, this is the middle and this is the west, and this is pop, which means A, immediately, and D are both wrong, because they both start with soda. Now it's either B or C. They both start with pop, but we're gonna look, is it soda Coke or is it Coke soda, right? We continue reading and we say, pop is frequently used in many southern states. We look at the southern states. What do we have here? We have Coke, which means the answer is C. To check our answer, we read the last part. In the northeastern and southwest regions, which means here, this is, of course, what? This is the northeast and this is the southwest. What do we have? We have soda, and it's the last one here, soda. So now I'm 100% that my answer is correct. Okay, so the question is easy actually, because of course we all know the directions, south. Yeah, we know the directions, and I'm saying south like this. Sorry, south, north, east, west, etc. We look at the map, we look at the sentence. Okay, Allah يسامحك يا جنى على السؤال, because they already said that the information in the passage to correspond with the information in the map, right? Okay, good. Let's now move to question number 33. All right, so that's a conclusion question, right? Because they're telling us what choice most effectively concludes the sentence itself and the paragraph as a whole. All right, here's the thing. So they're telling us that as interesting as Ross's findings are, though they are true. Of course, here we could not say they are true value lies in there. So we should say there, which means the answer is B, right? For 32. Their true value lies in their reminder that the internet is not only merely a sophisticated tool for collecting data, but is also itself a rich source of data, right? Now, let me tell you something. So what are we talking about? Remember, now this is the conclusion. It should summarize the passage. We are saying that usually people collect information themselves, and that's called the human intensive data collection. How did I know that this is the main idea of the passage? I'm referring to what? I'm referring to the thesis statement. Always, guys, when you are asked about the main idea of the passage or the conclusion of the passage, you need to go back to the main idea. So they are saying, although that, human intensive data collection is still important, but now we have social media and we can use the internet to collect data, right? And it has opened many avenues for investigation. Good. We start with the options here. So they said the internet is not only a tool for collecting data, but it's also a source of data itself. So you're not just using the internet to look for data. No, the internet itself is a source of data. Okay. Now, let's compare it with the other options, where we can learn what terms people use to refer to soft drinks. Can we use this as the conclusion? Who can tell me?
No, isn't it an example?
Yes, it's too specific. It is too specific. Yes, of course they talked about pop, Coke, and soda, soft drinks. But this is, very specific. The conclusion should be more general. So B is wrong because it's very specific. What about C? The internet is a useful way to stay connected to friends, family, and colleagues. What do you think about this one?
Irrelevant.
Exactly. So it's off topic. So sometimes when you're not 100% sure of the answer, like I'm not sure that if it's A or D immediately, simply I can start eliminating the ones that I'm sure that are wrong, so that I can have fewer options, which means a better chance of getting the right answer. So now we can just say it's a source of data or helpful to researchers. What do you think? Is it A or D?
D.
A.
D.
Okay, great. So the answer is A, no change. Why? Because the first part of the sentence is saying the internet is not only a sophisticated tool for collecting data. Okay? What does that mean? Not only, but also. We're adding something else, right? So it's not only this, but also that. So I'm using also, which means you have to add something else. When you say helpful to researchers, isn't collecting data tool already helpful to researchers? So it's going to be redundant. You are using the structure not only but also just for the same idea. Because what does it mean, a tool? What does a tool mean? It's something we use to help us do something. So if I say helpful to researchers, I'm already saying that it's a sophisticated tool. But what about A? How does it work? I'm telling you. A, how is it different? A is telling you that the internet is not only a tool, but it's also a source of data. So it's not only a tool collecting data, okay? It's a source of data. Now, it might seem, of course, close at the same time, but at least now you are using the structure not only, but also correctly, which means you have two ideas. Number one, the internet is a tool. Number two, the internet is a source. But when you say number one, it's a tool, and number two, it's helpful. I mean, why would you use a tool if it's not helpful? So it's the same thing. And that's why the answer is A, not D. Okay. Now, when we move to the last passage, we're going to start with question number 35. Okay. So here, as you can see, they're telling us that the designer envisions the game's fundamental elements. What are these elements? The settings, characters, and plots that make each game unique, and is thus a primary creative force behind a video game. First of all, it's okay, of course, to introduce a list with a colon. We agreed on that. So there is nothing wrong here. But what's wrong is this comma. I told you, use a comma with one of the fanboys when we connect two sentences, which means before we have subject and verb, after we have subject and verb. So of course, the first part is a complete sentence. We know that the designer envisions. I have subject and verb, it's a complete sentence. But what's after and, I have just the verb is. I don't have a subject and verb, I just have a verb, which means it's not a complete sentence. I cannot use a comma with one of the fanboys. Okay, so A is wrong. B is doing the same thing. But if you look at C, they use this list as extra information. Okay. Now, because it's extra information, just a list of examples. In the list itself, we have commas, as we can see. The settings, comma, characters, comma, and the plots. And we said to avoid confusion, remember what did we talk about the dash? We said the dash doesn't have an original use. We use it just to add variety in our punctuation and writing, and mostly to avoid confusion. Since I already have a lot of commas, settings, comma, characters, comma, why would I start and end this appositive phrase with two other commas? No, I can use dashes. And the answer, of course, is C. D, it's obviously wrong because it starts with a semicolon, ends with a semicolon, and we already know we cannot use a semicolon unless the two parts are complete sentences. And we already explained that the second part is not a complete sentence. Okay, so for 35, the best answer is C. The list is considered extra information, a list of examples, and that's why it started with a dash and ended with another one.
It's in a positive phrase. That's what you mean? It's in a
Yeah,
positive phrase?
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, 36. That's a problematic question, I know. Look, if you think, and here's the main problem, and I believe that you are thinking so. Not everybody, but those who got it wrong. If you think that you are using however to connect the first sentence of this paragraph that starts with conceptualizing a game is only the beginning of the video game designer's job with the second sentence, okay, it will never be translated into a video game, then that's the mistake. Because you are using however here to connect the last sentence of the previous paragraph with this sentence. The only difference is they didn't start the sentence with however, because usually how do we use transitional words as we learn together? We use it at the beginning of the sentence, right? But we can also use it at the end of the sentence. So this is what they are saying. The designer envisions the game, and please keep that in mind. Envisions the game's fundamental elements and is thus a primary creative force behind a video game. And then they refer to this action of envisioning by saying conceptualizing. Because what does it mean conceptualize? It's the same as invention, right? Conceptualizing a game is only the beginning of the video game designer's job, however. So I'm using this however to connect these two sentences. I'm saying that the designer envisions the game's fundamental elements and as a result is a primary creative force behind a video game. However, conceptualizing the game is only the beginning of the job. They just used however at the end. So what should we do? Since I know now how the sentences are connected and however is at the end, of course I'm going to choose B. Because now, for example, here it would be also what? It would be a comma splice to connect the two sentences, because if you read the next one, no matter how good a concept is, it will never be translated into a video game unless it's communicated effectively. So how would you connect the two sentences with a comma, right? That's a comma splice. Here, there is nothing at all, which means it's a run-on sentence. C, it's also a comma splice. And it's not even like, even if we want to think about, you know, let's say consistency in punctuation, here they started with a dash and ended with a comma, and we know that that's a shift. We cannot use this and that. So C, because there is a shift, it's wrong. D, it's a run-on sentence because there's nothing at all connecting the two sentences. A is wrong because it's a comma splice, using this comma only to connect between the two sentences. So what I would choose, actually, as I told you, however is at the end of the sentence, and just simply full stop, and I start a new sentence. Okay, so again, how did we know that however is actually connecting the last sentence of the previous paragraph with this sentence, not the first two of this paragraph? Because it repeats the same idea. The designer envisions the game, conceptualizing a game is only the beginning, however, right? And if you think about it, why would you say conceptualizing a game is only the beginning of video game designer's job? However, no matter how good a concept is, it will never be translated into a video game unless it's communicated effectively to all. You see, it's clearly, it's a run-on sentence. Like just the way I read it, it tells me it's a run-on sentence. It contains like 3-4 clauses, and there's no proper connection between them. So one way is the keywords that you are highlighting. Number two, reading and being patient will also help you identify the structure.
Can I ask something?
Yep.
But isn't however a transitional word, and we can put it between two sentences if we have a semicolon and a comma?
Exactly. What should we have it? What should we have? We should have either a semicolon or a full stop before and a comma after, right?
Yeah, but we don't have that.
You know that, right?
Okay.
All right. Now, question number 37. Here is the thing. At this point, which means here, as you can see, number 37, the writer is considering adding the following sentence. What is the sentence? Successful communication is essential if a designer's idea is to become a reality. Shall we add the sentence? Shall we not? Look, if we read here, they are telling us, no matter, as we said, no matter how good a concept is, it will never be translated into a video game unless it's what? It's communicated effectively to all the other members of the video game development team. So here they're talking about the importance of what? Effective communication. Because without effective communication, this concept, it will never be or translated into a video game. So they are telling us that actually, effective communication is very important for any concept to be a video game. So when I look here, what are they saying? They are saying successful communication, which is already mentioned here, right? And they're saying is essential to do what? If a designer's idea to become a reality, to be translated into a video game, and idea is referred to here as what? As concept, because what's concept? It's an idea. So as you can see, here they said communicated effectively, the sentence said successful communication. Here they said concept, the sentence said idea. In the passage, they said, translated into a video game. Here they said, become a reality. So basically, it's the same information, right? Isn't it? So we should not add it because it would be repetitive, right? And that's why the answer here is D. No, because it only reformulates, restates the thought, the idea expressed in the preceding sentence, in the previous sentence. And yes, that's what the previous sentence is already telling us, that communication effectively is very important. Make sense? All right, now let's move to question number 39. Transitional words. Okay. Here's the thing. What did we agree on transitional words? You read the previous sentence, highlight the keywords. Read the following sentence, highlight keywords. These keywords will tell you the summary of both ideas. Then you determine the relationship between the two ideas and choose the best word. Now, a designer must generate extensive documentation. Okay, so that's the first part. We have extensive documentation and explain his or her ideas clearly. So what does he need? So far, the programmer needs documentation and explaining ideas. Why? In order to ensure that the programmers, artists, and others on the team all share the same vision. That's what he needs. Remember, I'm summarizing the idea using keywords: documentation, explanation. Why? So that they all have the same vision. The next sentence is saying, anyone considering a career as a video game designer must be skilled in what? In writing and speaking, regardless of what the answer is. Because in all the options that we have in question number 40, it's the same. It's about skilled in writing and in speaking. Okay? Let me ask you this question. Why are they telling us that a video game designer must be skilled in writing and speaking?
Explain his ideas clearly.
And because of the documentation he needs, right? So what's the relationship between the previous sentence talking about documentation and explanation and this sentence talking about skilled in speaking and writing? What kind of relationship? Again, why do we need to be skilled speakers and writers if we want to be video game designers? To do the documentation and to do the explanation. The relationship between the two ideas is exactly, it's cause effect. Because you are required to explain your ideas and do the documentation, because of that, you must be skilled in writing and speaking. So it's cause effect. Which of these four words show us cause effect? First of all, nevertheless, and however are both for contrast. I know that's not the case. There's no contradiction here, right? It's either likewise, talking about something similar, or consequently. Which one is about cause effect?
C.
Exactly. C, consequently, as a result. Yes, thank you, Jana. Okay, guys. So as you can see, this is always how we do it. You read both sentences, you highlight words from both sentences, you understand the relationship between the ideas, and then you choose the best word. Anybody wanted to say something?
Likewise, it's for adding
a similar idea. It's a new idea, but similar to the one mentioned before. But you were not adding a new idea. We're just saying, okay, you want to be a video game designer, then you want to be skilled in writing and speaking. Why? Because we already mentioned that your job requires two things: extensive documentation, which means a lot of writing, and explaining your ideas clearly, which means speaking. And that's why it's called effect. But when we use likewise, it means you are adding a new idea, but in a similar way.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I just did, Jana. Did you catch it? The last part? All right, now we can go to 4E2. I mean, I understand that it's about word choice and we have words we don't know, like emphatic, maybe, paramount and eminent, but come on. It's about collocations, words that come together. We just ask ourselves, first of all, what are all these sentences, words? They're all adjectives. Okay, what am I trying to describe with this adjective? The word skills. So what do we use? Important skills. That's it. Okay? As simple as that.
What does eminent mean?
Okay, of course, now I'm going to tell you about the meaning of the other words. So bear with me. First of all, we agreed that when you have a word choice question, then all the words will have the same general concept, right? And the words emphatic, paramount, eminent, they all mean important in one way or another. But we use emphatic to talk about speech or tone. Okay? We use eminent to talk about people. He's an eminent person, which means he's an important person and powerful person and famous person. Paramount, it's like superlative, the most important. Okay, paramount, the most important. But here, we cannot say that help you develop most important collaboration skills. No, we can just say important skills. That's it. Okay. So remember, when you are given a word choice question, you will find that 3, 2, or even all of the options, all of the words have the same general meaning. But the thing is, what context do you use this word in? Because emphatic, it means important. Eminent, it means important. Paramount, it means important, right? But each one is used in a different situation. And that's what we should keep in mind. All right, the last question, 44, it's also a sentence placement question. As you can see now, there are patterns, right? There are certain questions that we are getting wrong. For example, sentence placement. Another example, transitional words. So we should know from this practice what kind of challenges we still have when we answer such questions. We take notes of these challenges and we try to focus on them more when we do other practices. And that's why I'm going to send you 3 tests, just on, of course, only writing tests. And you don't have to send me your answers or anything, because we used many questions from these tests to show you examples during the course. But I'm going to send you these 3 tests, and I'm going to send you the answer key so that you can do one test, but you do it purposefully, which means you don't have to limit your time. You don't have to take it strictly as a test. No, take it as homework. Use your dictionary if you don't know the meaning of a word. Go back to the grammar rules that we learned together. So, I mean, don't deal with these 3 tests that I'm going to send you as tests. No, I want you now to learn today where your weaknesses are, what kind of questions you got wrong and why. And then when you go to these 3 tests that I'm going to send you, first of all, actually, you're going to find a lot of questions we already answered together during the course. And for the other questions, I want you to use them as a resource for you to train on and learn from. Okay? 44. Okay, so to make this paragraph logical, sentence number 5 should be what? Sentence number 5, guys, is saying, that's it. A designer also needs careful educational program. If you remember about sentence placement, we said the first thing you need to think about the sentence is, does it convey a main idea or does it just give me a specific detail, right? If we read the sentence, a designer also needs careful educational preparation. Is that specific or general? You're not sure? Okay, let me tell you. Since we're saying educational preparation, okay? And then in the first sentence, we're saying computer programming. Can you tell me now which one is general, which one is specific?
Computer programming is specific.
Exactly. And educational preparation is general. That's number one. So now I can sense that the sentence itself is general. So it works as the main idea, topic sentence, which means at the beginning of the paragraph. But I need to be patient, okay? So we talked about computer programming. So we mentioned computer science courses, right? And then we talked about courses in psychology, right? And then we talked about courses in the humanities. All of these are what? The computer programming, the computer science courses, the psychology courses, the humanities courses. Yes, they are telling us of what kind of preparation we're talking about. Okay? Which means now I understand that the sentence is general. Second, when I read all the other sentences, of course, I can see that all of the sentences are telling me about different kinds of education, different kinds of courses. So place it before number one and make it number one, so that it's the main idea of the whole paragraph. Because it's general, it's telling us if you want to be a designer, you need educational preparation. Okay, of course, what are you gonna ask me? What kind of educational preparation? Then I tell you, you need courses in computer science, you need courses in psychology, you need courses in humanities, etc., etc. That's it. You see? So for today, I believe we discussed 15, 16 questions. Okay. Again, what about the other questions? I'm going to send you the answer key with the answer explanation, so that, of course, you can check your answers and everything will be fine. I'm going to send you, as I said, 3 other tests. Take your time. Now, as we all know, we have 1 week vacation. So next week, there will be no lessons at all. Okay. Because as we know, it's Eid al-Adha. And, you know, that leads me to say, كل عام وانتم بخير إن شاء الله. رح نرتاح منكم أسبوع. قصدي رح نشتاق لكم كتير بهالأسبوع. Of course, enjoy your time, go out, visit your relatives, have fun. But at the same time, if you could just give yourself 3 hours in these, 10 days of holiday, then just do these 3 tests. And again, you don't have to send me your answers, you don't have to send anything, but please do them. Like when I say you don't have to send the answers, it doesn't mean that you don't do them. No, you do them because you want to practice, you want to improve. And I want you to be a little bit dependent, because mashallah, everybody's working hard, you are all in high school, so you can depend on yourselves sometimes. All right, so next week there will be no lessons at all. We're going to resume on Monday, inshallah, that comes after Eid al-Adha. Any questions?
Can you send us the answers after so we can see if our answers are right or wrong?
Which
Do you get what I mean?
answers of this test?
No, the 3 tests.
Yeah, of course. I'm going to send you the answer key, but not at the same time. Like I'm going to send you the tests, for example, today or tomorrow. Okay, after 3-4 days, I'll send you the answer key.
Okay.
All right. كل عام وانتم بخير مرة ثانية وعيد مبارك, and see you after Eid inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
عليكم السلام.